In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. If we can close the door in the back, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Mina. So this is the third talk on a series on marriage and family life. And what we're attempting to do is just to create a context so that we're all on the same page in terms of vision, in terms of objectives. So we've just made some reflections on marriage as a mystery, as a path to salvation. And last time, the second talk, we talked a little bit about intimacy, and intimacy as the way it forms in childhood between the mother and the child bond, which I'm guessing for some people, maybe the connection, drawing intimacy between a mother and a child, and intimacy within marriage, maybe was not clear how those two things might be connected. So I want to review that a little bit, and then I want us to move forward because we have a lot of stuff to cover. So last time I shared with you the 4 S's of Dr. Daniel Siegel. Does anyone remember what those 4 S's are if you were here? Okay, so the 4 S's were to be seen, to be soothed, to be safe, and to be secure. And I won't go into the details of the things that we covered. You could go back and listen to the recording. But typically, when you hear couples talk about issues that come up in marriage, one of the things that people will say is, I don't think my husband really sees me. I don't think my husband sees how much I'm hurting. Or the husband will say, I don't think my wife really knows what I'm going through. I don't think she really sees what I'm experiencing. And so sometimes there's this sense of not being seen in the relationship. And in terms of soothe, this also comes up in terms of, all I really needed was a hug and not a lecture. All I needed was to know that you had my back and you weren't there for me at a time where I was really vulnerable or desperate or really struggling, and you weren't there for me. And so some of the complaints might come up in the area of being soothed, of wanting our partner to be there when things are really difficult. And to feel safe. It's often the time, you would agree with me, Sam, it's often the time that sometimes we don't bring up certain conversation because it doesn't feel safe to talk about it. So maybe they become like really hot buttons, and you've talked about something so many times and it just doesn't feel safe to talk about it. Because if you do, it'll bring up very strong feelings, and you're not quite sure how it's going to end, and so it doesn't feel emotionally, it doesn't feel safe to talk about it. And secure, when we're being missed and being seen, our partner is not soothing us, it doesn't feel safe to talk about certain things in the relationship, then the relationship doesn't feel very secure. You might say, well, I know my partner, because of their faith, they're not going to leave me, but I don't feel like my partner really is really happy, my spouse is really happy or really invested in the relationship, and there is this emotional disconnect, there's this emotional distance. So the very fundamental things that we needed in childhood to be seen, soothed, safe, and secure are really essential in marriage. We want our partner to really get it. We want our spouse to get it, to understand what we're going through, to be there, to help us soothe, and to feel secure. Like we could have an argument, and it could be a heated argument, and and I'm not worried. I'm not worried that the relationship is going to suffer. Um, can someone be so kind to see why? Oh, there we go. So those are the four S's that we talked about last time. And we talked about the ways that they could be interrupted. You know, if we had parents who were highly stressed, emotionally just overwhelmed, that they weren't going to be attuned to us. They weren't going to respond in the way that we needed to kind of help soothe our nervous system, to be able to regulate our emotions, to feel safe, to no fault of their own. But you know, we all got certain cards that were dealt, and we're trying to pass on a better deck of cards, if you will. I don't want to get in too much into this because I think it'll kind of sidetrack us. But we talked about ways that people attach to others. So in relationships, there are people who feel very secure in the relationship. They don't have a problem asking for help. They don't have a problem being vulnerable with their feelings. I'm really scared right now. I feel overwhelmed. I need you. They could ask for help. People with attachment issues, they have a very difficult time doing that. First of all, I won't tell you that I'm very scared, I need your help, because I don't trust that you will help me, because my experience has told me that people are not really trustworthy. And so a lot of times we'll come into our marriage with these relationship wounds, with these hurts. And marriage is a place where that could be healed. So we talked about, last week, we talked about avoidant attachment. This is someone who's kind of have this pseudo-autonomy, like I'm okay on my own. And sometimes when marriage is not going really well, people kind of orbit around each other. Like we're married, we're taking care of the kids, but I don't really need anything from my spouse. Some people will say that because they're just so hurt that they won't reach out for emotional affection or connection or anything like that. They'll say, I'll just focus on raising my kids. I'll focus on getting those emotional needs met elsewhere, which is a dangerous place to be. Not just for the obvious of potential infidelity, but it's a dangerous place to be because if you get comfortable in that discomfort, it becomes harder to come back to a place of deep connection. So I could spend a lot of time on this, but I don't want to because just go back and listen to the second talk. Okay, so we come into marriage having experienced a lot of loss, not being fully seen, not soothed consistently, not feeling safe at times, not secure, not connected, not celebrated, right? In 2017, I went to Egypt and I went to visit an orphanage there, and one of the person who owns it and runs it, she said something to me which was really left an impression on me. But you know, I attached to one of the kids there, one of the boys there, very much. And she said to me, you have to be careful because when you walk into the house, there's 20 plus odd boys in there. They all need to feel that you're celebrating their presence, not just this one person. And I had been very biased. This one young boy just like stole my heart, and I felt very connected to him. And I remember her telling me, like, every boy in there needs to feel like you're joyous because they stepped into the room. And some people have grown up in their household, they didn't really feel celebrated by their parents because parents were overwhelmed, they were stressed, they got too many things going on. And you know, that's another thing we could also go into for a long time. But so we come in to the relationship with all these kind of wounds. You know, you grew up, maybe you weren't celebrated, maybe you weren't seen, maybe you weren't soothed. And then you fall in love, and then your spouse is going to be the person who fixes all of this for you. They're going to change all of this for you. So we fantasize of the ideal spouse who will be to us what we lacked in childhood often. We won't say that, we won't speak about it that way. You know, a lot of times people say, I don't even remember what happened to me as a child. It's irrelevant, it doesn't matter. I think it matters a lot, but that's just me. But so then we have all these ideals, right? That this person who really loves me has chosen me, and I have chosen that person. So maybe I didn't choose my parents, but this is the person that I have chosen, and this is the person who's going to make things right for me. So we come in with a particular script, right? I had the script too. She will be, affectionate and kind. She's going to attend to my needs. She's going to follow my lead. She's going to try to make me happy. That's a big one, right? People say, I just want to be happy. We'll talk about that. She's going to take care of things around the house, when I'm busy. She's going to devote time to others in the way that I want to devote time to others. And so we have this script. And oftentimes, we don't share that script with the spouse, right? Our spouse. We just, we're talking about wedding plans, and we're talking about our future. And that script is almost like, well, of course, this person knows this about me. Why wouldn't they know, right? And then she might have a script. He's going to put me first, because maybe, I grew up with a whole bunch of siblings, and they were causing chaos, and my parents were really focused on them, and I was the good girl, and I got good grades, and I didn't want to cause my parents hassle, and I just went unnoticed. Nobody celebrated me. Even though I was an A student and went to a great college and did all this stuff, like, I wasn't noticed, right? But that's not going to happen, because when I get married, my husband is going to adore me, and I'm going to be the first place in his life. He's going to make me feel special. He's going to know what I like, right? So a lot of times, like, you should know what I like, and it hurts a lot when your spouse doesn't know what you like, because you feel like you're not attentive to me, you don't see me. Those are childhood wounds. You better get this, right? Again, she too thinks, I just want to be happy. So hopefully this is coming. And he's going to take care of things around the house, because I personally don't like to clean, and my parents used to make me clean. So hopefully my husband is one who likes to tidy up and all that good stuff, because that's not my thing. And he's going to make time for me before attending to others. So you could already see that their scripts kind of don't really align. And sometimes what we value doesn't really align. So when we're married, and the way conflict arises is my spouse is not fitting the script. My spouse is showing up in ways that violates the script that I have for them. They're not acting in the way that I would want them to. So we typically protest. We want to protest that this is not fair. This is not what I want. I want something different. And we go about it in ways that sometimes is hurtful and unhelpful. So we'll talk about these hurtful and unhelpful ways, looking at the writing of Dr. John Gottman, which is a researcher and a practitioner for over 30 years, looking at couples and identifying at least 4 things which he called the four horsemen of the apocalypse. In other words, these are four things that people who struggle in marriage do consistently, and it really, really harms their marriage. So here they are. Criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So we'll talk a little bit about them. The first one is an obvious one, is that if someone doesn't meet the script, I'm going to contest this pain that I'm feeling, and the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to criticize. But better yet, I'm going to make global statements about that person. So at a time when they may not help me clean up, I might say, you're just always messy. I'm going to use these global statements using always, never, you never help me, you're always lazy. I'm going to make these very general and broad statements. And over time, if I'm making these criticisms and I feel that I'm still not soothed, I'm still not comforted, then I move to a place of contempt for my partner. And contempt happens to be like speaking from a place of superiority, cynicism, right? This is a really, really dangerous place to be. When you hear one partner speaking about their partner, or in the presence of their partner, in a way of contempt, in a way of looking down on them, from a place of kind of disgust or superiority. And it comes from a place of pain. I don't think that anybody gets married and says, I would really want to get married and invest my life being with this person, and then show contempt towards them, right? But I think people get there from pain that is unhealed, untreated. And then if you have criticism, you'll always have defensiveness, especially around hot topics that you visited before several times. As soon as it comes up and one of the spouse says, well, I just want to talk to you about something, but I don't want you to get upset, the other person's already on guard. I hope you're not going to mention the dishes. Just don't mention the dishes. It says, I just want to talk to you about the dishes, right? And then it's defensiveness, and then you're going to get a lot of defense. I was busy. I've been running around all the time. This is all you bring up. This is da da da. And the person who's criticizing hears the defensiveness and becomes outraged. So they become more critical. And the person who's on the defense becomes even more outraged. So they become even more defensive to protect themselves, because their nervous system is activated. They feel flooded with emotions, and they're like, I really feel unsafe in this moment. And so one of the ways that one of the couples will protect themselves is through then stonewalling, which is to withdraw yourself emotionally. They say a picture is 1,000 words. This is a summary of this last slide. So this is a picture of a couple, and I want you to tell me what you see. He's right. He's right, and he's swimming in contempt. What do you see? Please make observations. What do you see? Okay. Huh? Frustration. Okay. Okay. So their arms are closed. So what does that mean? Huh? Yeah, I'm closed off. I'm closed off to you. In a defensive mode. What else? Yeah, so they're turned away from each other, they're closed off, even though they're physically there, right? So let's go back to the four S's: seen, soothed, safe, secure.